Hey everyone, so this patch is a bit smaller, but it's like so big in terms of how it's going to mesh with the meta. We've got nerfs to some really powerful picks right now and 6 gameplay updates that range from kind of small tweaks to big overhauls. By the way, we're only about 6,000 points behind first place on club right now. A shout out to our top 10 so far, but if we can hit that #1 spot, I have something pretty cool planned for next week that might involve giving away a bunch of skins, so definitely head over to the link below and join our club. Most of you know how it works, but just download it, run it in the background, join challenges, play like normal, like your games like normal, and get coins you can use for free skins. Okay, so the first and the biggest thing of this entire patch is the Wukong mini update. Now, his passive is going to have 2 parts. So whenever Wukong or a clone damages an enemy champion, they apply this stack. The stacks are going to make the target take 4% increased damage from Wukong or his clone, stacking up to 5 times, so a 20% max. The other part of the passive is when 3+ enemy champions are visible, then you gain armor and magic resist, which scale with his armor and magic resist from items. His Q has also got a new passive, so you gain 125 range on the next auto after you cast any spell, and you deal less damage, but it's magic damage, and you also heal, which is hard for minions. His W is a focus of the update though, so his clones now attack nearby enemies for 50% damage, but they don't explode anymore. The stealth is still going to last 1.5 seconds, but the clone lasts 2.5 to 4.5 seconds, and pressing S to stop on Wukong will look identical to your clone animation. Your E is going to be the same, but damage a bit lower, and area to hit secondary targets increase. The clones that are sent out are actually clones now as well, and they can block skill shots and they look like Wukong. The damage amp from your passive works on absolutely everything, so you can ultimate somebody, you can amp it up and stack it up to 20%, and then everything after will do a lot more damage. The other stuff is really cool as well, but it's mostly about making his clones like much more useful. One thing that is really going to help you juke as well, that is kind of small but will have a big impact, is like you can actually look like a clone just by pressing S. Like I feel that is such a nice quality of life buff. Your tower pushing is going to be way better, like your split push as well as that. You can Q to wipe the towers, but use your clone to actually push even harder, and even your clone can use your Q or your E if you do it right. Your E and W are much more useful with your clone, but it's really the healing on his Q that will feel different to fight with, and then playing around the damage stacking. His damage is slightly lower now, so you need to get it stacked up to be able to properly play the game, and I feel like having Conqueror is going to be really good. Conqueror healing, the AD, the Q healing as well, the damage amp will be so insane where you put everything together. This is also really good for Jungle Wukong. The clones are going to block a bit more damage and be more useful. They also help his clear speed and heal in the jungle. From what I've tested, and it is kind of hard to tell on the PvE, but he could maybe even be pick or ban if he is released like this, because these are really good changes. Now, Zac is also getting a mini update where it's kind of like a Reaver, actually. So his Q cooldown increased by 2 seconds, rank 1. Your W deals 2% max health per 100 AP, but your ultimate has been reverted. He bounces 4 times now, gaining move speed, but he cannot attack again. First bounce on a target does more damage, and it knocks him back for 1 second. The bounce system is like way more aimed at being a disruptor rather than being like this engage and like pull back mechanic. I think the problem right now was that you can kind of just flash the blob and then he's screwed, right? He jumps back with nothing really gained, but now he would definitely have impact whether you flash or not. I think this is really cool. Like it kind of meshes like both iterations of Zac, right? We get the cool old Zac stuff and the cool new Zac stuff rolled into one little blob. Remember as well, tanks have been buffed a lot recently, so this is a really good time for him to get some changes and go straight back into the meta. Another gameplay update that we have is a bit on the smaller side of things this time, so it will change how you play Janna, but it's not huge either. So her W damage has been lowered by 40 rank 5, and the cooldown changed from 8 seconds flat to 8 to 6. Her E shield though has been increased by 10, cooldown changed to 16 to 12 from 18 to 10. There is a new part to it though, where each Janna ability that slows like your W or knocks up an enemy champion airborne with like your Q or your ultimate will reduce your E cooldown by 20%. It's putting a bit more power in her E. I don't really like this, but don't get me wrong, like doing 200 damage on your W without the AP ratio, by the way, on a forcing cooldown with some reduction is still really, really good. So I actually thought this was going to be really bad, but when I was testing it, like I realized that if you hit somebody with your Q, your W, and your ult after using your shield, it's actually up again before the shield even disappears. So you have like 100% uptime on your shield. If you just hit somebody with your Q and your W, it turns out to be like maybe a couple of seconds wait in between, and this is with 40% cooldown reduction, not even 45. It doesn't matter if you hit like multiple people either, it only counts for 1 at the moment, but basically in teamfights, if you're using your Q and your W to disrupt and your ultimate, I guess as well, like you'll have your shield up way more, and it's actually really good for teamfights. There are actually going to be nerfs to a ton of big champions right now, which is why I think this patch has massive changes for the meta. So Akali's passive auto energy restoration has been lowered from 10 to 30 to 10 to 20, and the damage AP ratio down 20% and the AD ratio down 30%. This is actually pretty big in my opinion. The energy regen is the same early, but the damage going down really limits like how much you can actually do after her ultimate has been used. Remember, this is every time she crosses that ring as well, so you can use it quite a few times during that fight. It's not just going to be like a one-time thing in a fight. You're going to be having this less damage over and over. It won't really touch your early game at all, so you can still win your lane if you can do, and you can still do stuff at one item with your gunblade, but the more items you get, the more damage you're going to end up losing. This should mean that Akali is going to be less deadly at like 3+ items if you can dodge her ultimate, so she won't scale as well into the game. So Gallio is also getting nerfed, which might seem really weird, but it'll make sense in a second. So his W minimum damage down 10, this is taunt by the way, and AP ratio up 10%. Maximum damage is also down 30, but the AP ratio is up 30%. So this is worse on base, but it's going to be better if you build AP. The reason for that is because he's a huge support in Korea at the moment. Maybe not so much over here though, and that is why he's being nerfed. These values are actually half rank 1 by the way, so it's less deadly during the early lane phase. At later levels, it's not going to be as big though, because you normally max this first as a support. So again, this is like a nerf for the support version, but not really for the mid lane version. It just means that using Gallio as a kill lane isn't going to be as good anymore, but not many people use it right now anyway, since you can use Nautilus and he's pretty busted and like a better version. So it seems kind of weird. Next up, we go into the top lane, and a lot of you guys will be happy about this, I'm sure, unless you play Jace, but his Q damage has been lowered by 5 to 25. He is one of the best lane bully champions right now, but this is only for cannon form, by the way, not for hammer form. So when he fully dedicates to a fight, he still does the same damage. It's aimed at the poke side of things, and also like his wave clear as well, if you're using it to push the wave out and then roam afterwards. Since you max it first, you'll feel the nerfs harder than you would if you max it second or something, but you should expect to feel the difference around 1 to 2 items. Once you get to like 3 or 4 items, where Jace actually isn't very good anyway, so I guess it is really hitting his power point. But anyway, the AD ratios you have from items will kick in enough to compensate anyway, so you won't notice it as much. Next up, we're going to move into the jungle for the last 3 nerfs, and these are actually all pretty big. So Coty's ultimate damage has been lowered by 50 base and 10% AP ratio. So now you're going to be doing 200 to 500 damage with your ultimate and only 65% of your AP. This is actually a pretty big nerf, I think. Like 50 damage off rank 1 is kind of huge, and it's 10% less of his AP, so he doesn't scale as well either. It doesn't stop his Q hitting like a truck, so like your ganks are going to be fine, your farming is going to be fine, but it will mean that his ganks where he doesn't even show up to the lane won't be as good. If he runs in, he slows, and he lands his Skittles, like it's going to be great, right? But you can't just sit in the jungle and press R anymore. 50 damage is actually a lot at like level 6, right? So it should stop him getting as fed early in games as well, which will limit how good he is mid game. So Massey is also getting his attack speed lowered, and the Q repeat strike damage on the same target lowered from 25 to 15%. Now these are the first like direct changes we've had to Massey, but last patch we had the rage bait ones as well, so this is kind of like 2 patches in a row. Your early clear speed in the jungle is going to go down because of the attack speed. Attack speed is actually really important for junglers, especially at early levels, and even the Q is not going to help. Single target wise, he will be doing less damage now, so this will make him worse at farming, worse at dueling, and probably slow him down towards the start of the game. This might seem weird depending on what elo bracket you are, because if you're like bronze or silver, Massey is actually insane at those elo brackets, but as you get higher, he's just not going to be as good anymore. Last jungler we have for our nerfs is going to be looking at Rammus. So his ultimate damage has been lowered by 10 to 30. It's now going to be 30 to 90. Now he's actually top tier right now. Believe it or not, Rammus is so good. He doesn't die very easily, and he does a lot of damage. So that is something they're trying to stop with this, and remember, this is per wave. Now rank 1, that is going to be 80 damage you're losing, which I think is a lot of damage from level 6, and rank 3, that is 240 damage lost. That's not even like the worst part about this. Obviously, if you're killing a champion, it is, but that is doubled versus towers. So 160 damage less to a tower rank 1 and 480 damage less late game. I think this is actually a lot worse than it looks at first glance, and it will stop him getting as many kills. It will stop him taking as many early towers or even tower plates, which is a lot of gold. Rammus is really bad early phase, but once he gets to 2 items, he kind of like takes over the game, and this will stop him getting to 2 items as fast. Okay, so we also have 2 junglers getting buffed as well this patch. One is a lot bigger than the other. The kind of big one is to Warwick. So his healing has been increased by 20% rank 5 up to 90%. So this is normally max second after your W. So I think it's like no change for the early part of the game, but when you start getting to like 2 to 3 item mid-game fights, you'll heal for a lot more. You're going to heal for 90% damage done now. That is a lot. It should help him dueling. It should also help him survive better, which is one of his biggest issues at the moment. He is really good early game, but he falls off way harder than most other champions. So when you're picking something like this, why not just play a Nunu? If you get a Visage as well, this is going to be even better. So I think this kind of like makes his early game the same, which is already very strong, makes his mid game better. But if you can last or late, he'll still have the same issues. The other jungle change, which isn't as big, is to Gragas. So his base health, health per level, and base AD are all going up. It's not going to be as bad as it looks. Like, base stats for junglers can make a good bit of difference, but I'm not sure if this would be enough because Gragas is pretty weak. Gragas has always been good early, but he falls off way harder than like other champions, and you might as well just play something like Elise. Runic Echoes did get buffed recently as well, so that might help a little bit, but notoriously Gragas is like pretty good in pro play and really bad for solo queue. If anything, actually, this might be really good for Gragas if you play him as a support or as a top laner, kind of like as a tanky damage sort of thing. This actually might work better there. That's going to wrap up our look into 9.11. Thank you very much for watching until the end, and let me know what you think down in the comment section. I should be streaming right now, I think. If you want to come and check it out, if I am, I'll put a link down below. But yeah, thank you for watching until the very end, and for now, I will leave you with robots.